Gold and Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. At Academy Sports and Outdoors, we carry all the gear you need from the top brands, all at prices you'll love. And now shopping at the Academy is more convenient than ever. We offer free assembly on in-store purchases of most bikes and grills, plus free and easy curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Want to save even more every day? Open and use an Academy Sports and Outdoors credit card to get 5% off future purchases when you're approved. Save time and money at Academy Sports and Outdoors and have fun out there.
Academy of Sports and Outdoors, we appreciate them as being a new sponsor. We, of course, too, the Union Club Hotel and the Boiler Up Bar. We appreciate them, longtime sponsor of our Saturday, GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast, which is what you're watching for our August 16th edition. A reminder to like, subscribe, write a review. We're really working hard to try to get podcast reviews in this ever-crowded world of Purdue Sports podcasts. We've been around a long time, and the two guys you're going to hear today are well worth positive reviews. And as Brian Newbert always says, if you don't want to leave a positive review, keep it to yourself. But we'll talk a little Purdue football today and more, bringing in Dub Jellison, Tom Dienhart. And guys, I think, Tom, you wrote this week, it being the dog days. And Saturday, this being a Saturday simulcast, tonight, Purdue will be having its scrimmage in Ross-Ade Stadium. But now that you've gotten through another week of this, Tom Dienhart, and you've been through a lot of this, is it the dog days of August with respect to where this team is right now?
I don't know what day it is, Alan.
There you go.
I walk out there and go and see these guys running around. The sun's bright. It's hot. I'm talking to Dub. I don't know where I'm at some days. So, yeah, that's the sign for me. Maybe I need to hydrate better, right? But, yeah, this is what I think there are about 13 practices in at this point. You talked about the scrimmage tonight under the lights of Ross-Ade Stadium, the second scrimmage of August. I asked the coach why they're going at night. He said because the second game of the year is at night. And, I kind of want to get used to doing it under the lights once at least. And he had some other reasons, too, as far as the body clocks go. But, yeah, Alan, I think, interestingly, he said that after the scrimmage, they may actually start putting together some depth charts. We may start getting some finality.
What a novel thought.
And, I guess a starting point, right?
No, I'm not being
here.
Yeah, I hear you.
I want answers now, Alan Karpick.
Yeah.
Jellison wants answers now. Who's the quarterback? Who's going to be the right guard? But anyway, so we'll start maybe getting some actual shape to the depth chart, at least a working structure to it here in the next week or two. So I guess my point, Alan, is we're getting ever so closer to August 30th, game one, and our first look at what the Barry Odom regime is going to look like.
And Dub, he used the term, I think on Thursday, that Ball State was Purdue's Super Bowl. I thought it was interesting what Tom had said earlier, and that they are practicing at night because of game two. And would far be it anybody on the internet to say, well, they're certainly making Ball State for granted. They're not doing that. I think that's very clear. Barry Odom seems to be very certain that, and it goes without saying when you've only won one game the year before, that Purdue needs to have its best foot forward come August 30th at noon.
Yeah, absolutely. The expectation should be for Purdue to go 2-0 against Ball State and Southern Illinois to start the year, right? But with all the things that have been changing within the program for Barry Odom, you can't overlook anybody. I mean, heck, you saw a team that was in the national championship game lose to Northern Illinois last year, right? So you can never overlook anybody. And, I do think it'll provide them. One would hope that it would provide them with an opportunity to get a lot of guys game reps. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Barry Odom doesn't necessarily strike me as a guy that's already circled USC and Notre Dame on his calendar. They're going to go out and try to handle business against Ball State and Southern Illinois, and that's what they've been focused on. And I believe they're also getting started early on some Ball State prep. So like Tom said, we're inching closer to August 30th.
Yeah, he said, but Thursday and Friday of next week would be Monday light, Tuesday light of the following week. Tom, you've been around this a long time. Not that you're old or anything, because you and I are both in the same decade now. Mm-hmm. But coaches and quarterback decisions. And finally, would you finally get on with this, coach, and tell us who the quarterback's going to be? Again, a fan thing saying, you'd like to say, man, we've been thinking that it's going to be one guy, and it may be the guy that we've been thinking it's going to be all year, or you guys have been thinking. But again, he's taking his time. And what are you seeing on the field between in that quarterback competition of the four guys that are battling it out?
I love asking Barry Odom that question.
I know you do, and he loves answering it. Yeah,
I know he loves it. But yeah, here we are. Like I said, about 2 weeks deep. And they're still liberally rotating all four quarterbacks among all four teams this deep into training camp. I guess, that they say they want to give everybody a fair shot. I guess talking to some of my colleagues like Dub and others, I thought maybe by this time they would start winnowing it down. If they don't have a starter, maybe having two guys taking most of the reps with the first team. That hasn't happened yet. Maybe that'll happen after the scrimmage. We'll see. We all know the sooner you can name a starter, the better, right? That's kind of obvious. And yeah, to your question, Alan, who's really stood out in camp? I think it's kind of varied from day to day. I think if you ask most people who are out there watching this stuff, who they think their starter is going to be, I feel safe saying they would respond Ryan Brown.
Yeah.
And, that's been the guy that I thought would be the starter for quite a while now. I think he's got a higher ceiling than any of the other guys that are battling right now. I think he's got a floor that's solid, that I think they can trust him not to make the big mistake. And, as much as anything, that's almost important in some regards, is making the big plays. It's not making the big mistake. You don't want to be too conservative, but I think Ryan Brown's got the ability to make some big plays. And again, I think when it's all said and done, you're going to see number 15 take that first snap on August 30th against Ball State. Now, will they have packages for Malachi Singleton? Perhaps we see him brought in on some certain down and distance situations to use his skill set. I don't know, but to me, I think Ryan Brown's the guy. I'm not sure where Dub's at. I know he's had a couple different. I know he's had a change of heart at one point, but it's been a fun debate so far. But it's going to end pretty soon, I think.
Dub, one of the tough things is that you don't, in by design, I think by coach's design for you guys, is that you're not going to be watching you don't see the scrimmages, and you see a lot in practice, and there's a lot of things that do go on in practice, and it's great that you guys are in the environment and be able to ferret out what you're seeing. But those scrimmages tend to make quarterbacks, or at least starting quarterbacks in game one, do they not? Because you got to show what you can do when the lights are on. We know Ryan Brown did some good things last year in at least in one half at Illinois, and we saw some good things even the year before at Northwestern. But that's a huge factor in terms of what goes on. And it seemed to me with what Barry Odom said Thursday that I tend to get, if I'm reading between the lines, that those scrimmages are going to play a big role, and maybe Saturday night, August 16th, will be the night that a lot of things get determined, at least in terms of direction forward. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, after their first scrimmage, we talked to Josh Henson, and he spoke about, there being some separation, some clarity. He wouldn't divulge many details as to what that all included, but yeah, and like you mentioned, and like Tom mentioned, these guys rotating in and out. One day they're playing with the ones, one day they're playing with the fours. It's kind of hard to find a rhythm. So getting a chance to be in Ross-Ade Stadium and kind of be able to settle in and have a full practice or a full scrimmage, I guess, to work with a specific team is going to be valuable. And one of my things was that I've been kind of pondering with this quarterback competition is, how is this starter going to build his rapport with his first team receivers? Because if you're playing with them every other day or every 3 days or whatever the case may be, it's harder to build that chemistry and that timing with them. So I think that would be a big storyline for whoever wants to start a job.
Yeah, and I will get to. I want to ask you about Michael Jackson because you did the story on him. But Tom, we talked about that rotation at receiver. It seems to be, and even in the wonderful world of college football, Barry Odom, you gotta move the football, whether it be on the ground. You got to be able to get teams off balance. UNLV did a little bit of that last year in a kind of a multiple way of doing things. To me, that's one of the biggest things that, again, having not been in practice yet, but still just looking at it and reading what you're writing, that's a big storyline. You got to have somebody on the edge. We know Devin Makabe can have some big play potential at the running back position, but who's going to scare somebody on the edge and at the receiver position? Is that simply brought down, or are there some diamonds in the rough there? What do you think?
I can't hear you guys.
I lose you there. I'm going to go back. Dub, you hearing me?
Yeah, I got you.
Dub, I'll come back to you on that.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Tom, we can hear you. You're not hearing us, though, huh? But Dub, let me go back to Michael Jackson on that question, and in terms of that, and what you see out of him, because he is a guy that they've talked about. That are you back there now, Tom? Yeah, interesting. I can still hear. Yeah, I can hear. Anyway, Dub, in terms of that and what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and both he and Coach Cornell Ford talked about it, is his leadership and his veteran experience. Guy going into his 6th year of college football, right? He's been around the block, and he's the most senior guy on that receiving corps. So I think that's first and foremost. But just in terms of on the field, he's steady Eddie, super reliable, super consistent. It feels like every time you look up, he's making a big play. Catch, which is something that Purdue is going to need, obviously. And he's been a trusted guy in punt returns and kick returns, which Tom wrote a little bit about on Friday. But he's really impressed me. I think he's really impressed Tom as well. I'll let him speak on that. But he's taken a step forward and really cemented his place as a number one guy at receiver right now.
Yeah. Alan Karpick with Dub Jellison and Tom Dienhart in our GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast, but I'm not sure Tom's hearing us yet. He still
no, we can't hear him.
Maybe we can sign language you some questions. We're not hearing either end of you right now, but Dub, as you go back and look at that opportunity to get to that first game, and it's funny because Barry Odom talked about the weather and the fact that it has been humid. It's been humid in West Lafayette pretty much every day since June 1st, as crazy as it sounds, with a couple of exceptions. I know they practice most of the time in the morning, but it seemed to me to be very cognizant of the need for conditioning, the need to be more maybe I'm reading a little bit into this, mentally tough in terms of the heat and the fact that you're kicking off at noon on August 30th. You know darn well you have to think, barring the unforeseen, the temperature is even Barry Odom looked at the long-term forecast, 82 degrees, whether it will be that way 2 weeks from now. But it's all a big part of what he's trying to get done. Yeah,
and Alan, I know you haven't been out there in the mornings with us, but it's hot out there. It's hot on that turf.
Yeah.
So me and Tom are over there dying, watching practice. But like the mentally tough aspect and everything that comes with that. That's kind of Barry Odom's MO. That's kind of the cloth from which he is cut. And you go back to some of the things they did in the spring and in the winter workouts. That was all building towards this moment of their first game, right? So another thing that we've kind of talked about, they've kind of eased up the last couple of days. Did a little bit of lighter practices, right, and saving guys' bodies, but they practice hard and they go for a long time. They consistently go well over 2 hours. So that conditioning aspect, I don't anticipate to be an issue at all, and it's something that they've really focused on throughout the off season going into fall camp.
Tommy, back with us here? Yeah, I can hear you now. And
dog days of August, man. Dog days
of
August.
But I got to ask you, because I think they said, Tom, that if I read your stuff correctly, my reading comprehension isn't always the best, but over 3 hours scrimmage this past Saturday, right? And to Dub's point, we've kind of gotten used to, the days of Camp Joe Tiller and the 2-a-days and sometimes 3-a-days for some coaches and whatever that was. That's no longer the case. But that conditioning part of this, Barry Odom doesn't seem to be backing down in any form from that perspective. His team, you have to think, is going to be conditioned and ready to go come August 30th.
Yeah, he's from a black and white era, Vince Lombardi era. And I think if he could play without a face mask, he would have played without a face mask. And, we all know the days of 2-a-days are long gone, right? That's a much more player-friendly environment of the last 10, 15, 20 years. But, I think if you're looking for the closest replication of what we used to see back in those Joe Tiller 2-day days, this is probably it. Barry Odom, as Dub said, he pushes these guys pretty hard, man, pretty hard. And, it's about, you always find out the most about people when, number one, they face adversity, and number two, when they're fatigued, right? That's when you really find out what people have and what they're about. And I think that's what he wants to try to find out with these practices. And a couple of Thursdays ago, it was a marathon practice in full pads. And then 2 days later, like Dub said, and you said, Alan, they had that protracted scrimmage in Ross-Ade Stadium. And, Dub noted, too, they've gone a little lighter this week. I was surprised on Thursday when they weren't in full pads. They were just in shells, if you will. And, Friday was just a spider pad workout. They still get after pretty good even on those days. But again, Friday was only a 15-period practice. Thursday was about 22, but they still got a little physical there. Always a lot of 11-on-11 going on. Always wanting to evaluate. And I'll be honest, guys, 120 men on this roster, give or take a couple guys. I don't think anybody can feel gypped about not getting a chance to make an impression, good or bad, whether that's your philosophy or not. Everybody's gotten a chance to impress here. And they certainly have gotten a long look at a lot of players. So that they should know what the evaluation is, and they should have a pretty good idea who they want where come game time here.
Tom, I'm going to come back to you because we gypped you out of a question there a bit. But 46 and 82, two numbers that strike me as are big numbers. That 46 guys that have not played at all till they came into camp. Now they were here in June, obviously. And then 82 is that new, I think the number that's been used as how many newcomers on that roster. You've been around college football a long time. You've watched teams gel. I know it's a different world. We were talking about how things have been different in terms of camps, but any sense, and it's hard, I know from where you sit, to how that cult, not only the culture is being built, but this, the herding the cats and getting this team to be a unit. Any sense of how that's going yet, or is that almost impossible to tell?
46 and 82. I thought you were talking about my SAT.
First. Me too.
But, that just makes me still shake my head. I don't think we've got any official word yet, but I got to think there's not one team in the country with more than 82 newcomers on its roster. Purdue's got to lead America in that. 46 have just got here, like you said. It's hard to tell. We get a glimpse of this team. We don't know truly what chemistry's like. We could say we know, but we really don't know here. You have to take people's words for it. I think building that camaraderie seems to be important to Barry Odom. Unlike the other staff, which took their team on paintball excursions and swimming pool, and they went fishing once, I know. There have been no such activities like that away from the field that I know of, that I was told about. And it's been all business all the time, but you can still foster chemistry here. Sure. And more than anything, gosh, as a player, it's a great opportunity, right? I think it's why a lot of these transfers came here, a brand new slate, right? About every position's open, and a chance to impress. And I tell you what, on defense, especially in the back end, there's a lot of veteran players. And some guys, a lot of them are in their last year, and this is their money year, right? If they want to be a pro or not. So I think there could be a sense of urgency too. And I know the team's important, but guys are always thinking about themselves too. They don't like to admit it. That's going to be vital. We'll see what that chemistry is like when they get in the tough times, because tough times are coming for everybody. Tough times are coming for Purdue this year. Let's see how they respond when they give up that kickoff return for a touchdown and they give up a late lead and have one last chance to score to maybe win a ball game. And it'll be fun. And real quick too, before we sign off, I got a question for you guys. You tell me if you think this is too much of an overstatement or not. Is the opener against Ball State a must-win game? The first game of the year, is it a must-win game?
I'll start that one, and I'll say that in the framework of this season, you better get off to a good start. I know we can use the Joe Tiller analogy of Toledo in 1997, and it was that before Dub was born.
It was.
But I think, I think for a number of factors, I'll hedge a little bit, as I often do, and say that you with respect to fan base following, we've talked about, Tom did a report about season ticket sales within a couple thousand. I always look at things kind of that way. Single game tickets, you better be able to build some momentum on that. I know that ticket sales are not as important as what the team does on the field, but they do kind of go hand in hand. So I think it's right up to that. No, they will not. Barry Odom will continue contractual work if they lose to Ball State, I can promise you in that press conference we'll say, well, we need to practice more next week, and we need to move on. But it is a huge game. I think both those first two games, and having that sauce coming into USC, even though Purdue will probably be at close to a double digit, if not more, underdog against the Trojans when they come to West Lafayette, I think would be, cosmetically at least, it would be very, very important to me. Dub?
I would tend to say yes, it is a must win. And now, obviously, they can go out and lose and rattle off a bunch of wins, right? But, just piggybacking off some of the things that Alan mentioned there, you go out and lose to a Ball State who's kind of on a rebuild as well.
Yeah. Not a great Ball State team,
yeah. The sky is going to be falling from a fan's perspective in West Lafayette. And you got Southern Illinois coming in the next week that you could probably get back, but you got to take advantage of these games when you have them. And I just feel like getting off on the right foot, getting some momentum on your side, snapping what is now the longest losing streak in program history. That's kind of just an additive, but getting on track and like Alan said, getting some momentum heading into USC and Notre Dame potentially, it would be big.
Ball State's coached by Purdue alum Alan Karpick.
No, who's the head coach?
Mike is it Mike Urimovich? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He's a Purdue alum who did not play football. He coached Butler recently, had a lot of success at Butler. So kind of a fun little sidebar. An alumni coach against the Boilermakers. Alan Karpick, how many times has an alumni coached against the Boilers?
Well, I can't think of one that has ever coached against them that didn't play in the sport of football. I think in basketball it may have happened, but that's a good tidbit. Yes, there have been some former Purdue or Purdue grads. I'm trying to think of them right now. I know in basketball it's happened, and you're right. Mike Urimovich is the head coach at Ball State, but he got his bachelor's from Purdue and graduated around the time, about 1998, I would think. So he was around the time that when he graduated from Purdue, and of course went on to Northern Illinois. But yeah, that's an interesting study. How many head coaches, I should know this, that have been Purdue grads that have coached against Purdue in football?
May never happen. There's something for one of your.
I'm scratching my brain
number crunching. That's not for your number crunching here in September.
Yeah, because the guys like Alex Agassi did not graduate from Purdue. He graduated from Illinois. There's got to be somebody out there, but maybe not. But yeah, there's all kinds of those types of storylines because that's what makes college football fun, is being able to bring all that stuff to the fore, and you're going to look for some storylines from that standpoint. All right, Dub, you look. Well, go ahead, Tom.
I want to say real quick. We talk offense, defense all the time, right? Well, Friday we did all special teams after practice. We talked to James Shebist, just a great guy to talk to.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Just a great, an affable guy, homespun guy. And very good at what he does. Oldest assistant on the staff, very, very well respected. And that's an area I've talked to several people. They really think they're going to have an advantage. every game. That was huge for UNLV last year. They blocked, I think, 8 punts. And Barry Odom talked about a lot of the other advantages they had on special teams last year. It's an area that's really bizarre. It seems like some places don't take it as seriously as others. That's not the case here with Barry Odom, and James Shebist underscored that today, or I should say when we talked to him on Friday, that Barry Odom always talks special teams every day. He gives them plenty of meeting time on the field and off the field. And if you want to find out what's going on with special teams, check out the reports today on Gold and Black. And or I should say on Friday, I'm all messed up because of that dog days of August. But anyway, the special teams, my point being, is could be really huge for Purdue and could be a real deciding factor. And as you know, guys, that can win or lose you 1 or 2 games a year.
Yeah. All right, and now you got my brain thinking. That's a good, excellent point, because I think Shebist also, Barry Odom made a huge statement on Thursday, calling him the best special teams coach in all of football, not just in high school, not just in college, but I took it that way. That was a big space. John McKay, by the way, would have been one. He was not. There have been guys that have played at Purdue, Alex Agassi, John McKay, all these guys in the 40s.
And the war guys.
Elliott also, Bump Elliott played at Purdue and coached at Michigan, was a Purdue guy. John McKay, of course, the last was not coached against Purdue in the Rose Bowl, Hall of Fame level coach that also coached in the NFL with Tampa Bay. But I don't think there's, Purdue has not played Brock's back.
Can't believe that.
Though you thought they would. They did play at Illinois State when Brock was on the staff back in 2002, but
never played Kevin Sumlin.
Never played Kevin Sumlin. And there really haven't been all that many. George Katavlis was never a head coach, and they coached against George Katavlis. Of course, he coached the NFL.
Yeah, Chris Dishman's a head coach.
Yeah. So they're out there. Maybe this is certainly a first with Ball State. All right, Dub, as we wrap this up. All right, the last things we're looking at now as you go into that. It is not game week yet. We know that next week we'll have, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Thursday and Friday, kind of that early game week approach. But when you stand in front of it, and I assume you'll talk to Barry Odom at some time next week, but you're going to be asking a lot of questions, I'm sure, every day after practice. But just how was that scrimmage on Saturday? What are your questions going in? What are those top questions coming in? Or do you just want to see this team line up on August 30th and see what happens?
I'm ready to see him line up on August 30th, but I wrote about it this week. The question that everyone wants to know is who's going to be that starting quarterback, and you would have to think that by next Thursday, I believe is the next time we'll talk to Barry Odom, he'll have an answer for us.
Yeah.
If not, then I could see it being a mystery until they run out onto the field against Ball State. But that's by far and away the most pressing question to me, and kind of a secondary thing is just how the offensive line is going to work out. Whether they have Ethan Trent snapping.
Right, the center position is really huge.
Yes, and that goes back to my point earlier about just the cohesion and the timing and the chemistry with the quarterback, the center, and the receivers. It's going to be a big thing. So those are the two main things that I'll be pondering next week.
All right, a lot to ponder. Tom Dienhart, your last word on that front.
Yeah, good points there. The trench play on both sides of the ball. Dub talked about the O-line, in particular the center spot. They've been rotating a lot of guys there. Joyner's been taking a lot of the first team snaps recently at center. We saw Ethan Trent for a while, the Canadian kid Vaccaro, and just overall how the O-line is going to perform is. I want to be optimistic about it, but I don't know. We'll see. That left side with Tanona, St. John looks pretty good. Then you got center. Then the right side, I think that's where there's some questions maybe. So see what happens on the O-line, the D-line too. It's been a pretty steady foursome on the first team all through camp. Trey Smith from Illinois and C.J. Madden from Georgia on the edges, and the two guys on the inside. Massive Chops Harkless, the 350-pound monolith.
Love that name.
And then you got number 13, right? T.J. Lindsey, who's a guy I like a lot too from Auburn. Are those guys as good as I think? We'll see. You guys watch football like I do. I don't care what level it is, 5th grade NFL. if you're not good up front, you got no shot. I don't care who your quarterback is, your running back and receivers. You got to be good up front. That's where football is won. And those units, it goes without saying, have to be improved. And like I said, I wish I could tell you all this hunky dory, but I'm like Dub and everybody. I got to see it when the lights get turned on Saturday afternoons here.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what's going to be a fun story. All right, guys, you are now released. I'm going to really know, but we appreciate all you do. We'll look forward to your coverage and analysis leading into that, and it'll be a game week before you know it. And yes, the long national nightmare of training camp will come to an end, and we'll start seeing football games. That part will be fun. So have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll do a little house cleaning on the back end. But thanks again, guys.
Thank you, fellas. Be good.
All right, I want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel and Academy Sports and Outdoors. We appreciate them very much. And we were a couple of reminders, important ones. One, you can subscribe to this thing called GoldandBlack.com, our website. It is an excellent one. We have the biggest community on the internet. Brian Newbert covers Purdue men's basketball like no other. Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison. Dub really also be focusing more on recruiting. We look forward to that coverage as well. The community it's all about community, and we appreciate that. But also, you can like and subscribe the podcast either on Apple Podcast or on YouTube. Leave us a review. We would appreciate that. Would help our business as well. There's a special offer to subscribe to GoldandBlack.com as a part of YouTube as well. But all those factors, as you consider how you utilize our information that we bring to you, then we like to bring to you very, very much. So have a great rest of your weekend. Stay out of the heat if you're in the heat. It is getting warmer again, and we're going to have a warm period back in West Lafayette next week. It's been that way, as I said, for a long time. But safe travels if you're wrapping up your summer vacations. A lot of kids back in school in the state of Indiana. That's also a big part of things. But we appreciate all of you, and thanks for watching, listening, and make sure you check us out on GoldandBlack.com.